Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi, and I'm glad to say tonight I am joined by our resident tactician, the man in the suburbs, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Good evening, guys.
And from a very far away scouting mission from a certain continent we won't mention, we have Monty C. Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Desi, evening, lads.
Is there anything you can tell us about this current mission that you're on at all? Is it still hush-hush?
Still very much hush-hush, but there's a match kicking off at 8 o'clock that I wouldn't mind putting my eyes on just to make sure everything's in order.
Okay, then we'll see if anything comes of that. We were hoping Ralph Malf could join us, especially to discuss his recent diary contents. Hopefully you've all been reading his daily diary on the etims.net website. But it's just us for now, and we do have a lot to cover because it has been a busy month since we last met. So Hector, let me just give you a quick overview of what's happened in the last month. We were looking forward to facing a certain Real Madrid the last time we talked, and I've not even listened back recently to see how confident we were about facing Madrid at home. But of course it was a very narrow 3-0 defeat that we suffered from Madrid. Do you remember much about that game apart from, oh well, that's to be expected?
Well, what I do recollect is the podcasting at the end, and you know how at our age we should know better, right? But the heart still rules the head. I'm convinced that our Irish correspondent said Celtic would win. Was it 3-1? I can't remember, right? And I think the rest of us had it worse a draw. So, interesting enough, right? It feels like a lifetime ago. But thinking back to that game, the first half I thought Celtic were outstanding in the first half. They absolutely took the game to Madrid. And probably unfortunate not to be ahead at half time. McGregor hit the inside of the post with a peach, thought it was in. And who was it? Abada had come through and sort of panicked a bit, didn't he? Panicked a wee bit. But actually, it seemed to turn. Maeda had a great chance early in the second half, is it? 50 minutes, 51 minutes. A great chance to put us ahead.
Sorry, you've just given me the title of this month's podcast. Maeda had a great chance. ...
Aye. And you could replace Maeda's name with probably a Kyogo and a few others, couldn't you?
Here.
We had a great chance, but and it seemed to that moment just seemed to turn the game, as well as probably us starting to tire because we're pressing for fifth against them, and the rest is history, right? They scored, and after that, the last half hour, they were just a class, more than a class above us, weren't they? It was like a training session. The third goal was a work of beauty, fantastic goal. But overall, I was actually quite impressed with how we approached it. Ange was true to his word. He had a go against the European champions, world champions, and I think we did give them a fright for the best part of almost an hour. Then their class took over after they scored, and I think, yeah, it is what it is, right? We take it and we move on.
Yeah. So Monty, that was Madrid. Did you come over for the Madrid game at all, Monty?
No, I haven't.
Do you remember much about it? Do you remember any highs or any? You tend to be very much the optimist. Hector does look on the positive side of life. I am very much dark clouds falling all over our heads, but you tend to be the ultra optimist. Do you remember much from that game? We could maybe troll back in the WhatsApp to see they were there for the taking style, no doubt.
Hey, I think it's the story of the group so far, but for that particular match, it was like it's a free hit. So you get to set your stall out, and as Hector said, Ange was true to his word. We went at them, and for 55, 60 minutes, you're thinking, fucking hell, these are the European champions. And we don't look out of place against them. But then fatigue and that extra layer of quality kicks in. And I think there's an element of the players, and I know we'll touch upon Tuesday night's game. some of Gordon Strachan's commentary around it was really, really insightful, I thought, and spot on in the coverage after. That the difference is just this tiny little bit of quality. It's all it's needed. Or that tiny bit of composure, and that's the difference between a 40 million player and a 4 million player. It's that tiny bit of quality where the clear head in the moments that matter, you take your chances. And it's not beyond the realms of fantasy to say that we probably should have been ahead against them at half-time. But they did pull away, as Hector said, last half hour. I think as an occasion, it was wonderful. It was quite pissed off that I couldn't be at it. But I think also, depending on the way the next two, as the eternal optimist, play out, we could actually be going to Madrid needing something, and they might need something, and all of a sudden we've got something to play for over them in the last game. But even that's a tall order, I think, at the minute. But we don't look out of place. And I know Hector loves stats. We're 10th out of 32 teams in terms of chances created and good chances created in the Champions League group stages so far. Yet we're only 26th in terms of percentage possession. That tells you that the system that we have is actually being implemented, and these guys are trying as best they can. And it was evident against Madrid, but we're getting picked off with just that higher level of quality. But, you know, Modric, what's he, 37? Fucking hell, what a player. I remember that from the first game.
Having Cruz after they went 1-0 up, it was actually, I know it's hard, as it's your team that's playing, and it's Celtic at home, but I'm sitting back watching them, just admiring them the last half hour, how they were like two Rolls Royces, just cruising about the midfield.
Yep. And
at their age, especially you mentioned Modric there, he's just like a fine wine. It just shows no letting up in how good he is.
Yeah.
But again, sadly we tend to have that experience at Celtic Park, don't we? We always have that great player who turns up and basically walks about smoking a cigar and nodding nonchalantly as he places a perfect pass over the top of our defender who's totally lost. Right, I just prompted myself to actually look back in the WhatsApp. So I'll go for mine first. I put exhaustion, mental and physical. We can play intense for 45 minutes. The next stop is we last for 60 minutes. This is quite prophetic, thinking of the other night. The next stop is we last for 60 minutes, then 75 minutes, and then 90 minutes. So I keep talking about this work in progress. And again, what do you think of this, Hector? I've written, so this is this September, the Real Madrid game. A reality check for Jota. Seemed overawed, but probably overthinking it in such a pressure game. Abada takes that chance, and we all find an extra yard for 5 minutes. But I really don't think Real got out of second gear in the second half. Always in control. Looking forward to seeing Haksabanovic. He's built like GG. So again, Jota, I meant to put that in the notes. He seems to have faded away a wee bit this month. But then he scored against, we're coming on to the Shakhtar game. He scores in the Shakhtar game. So that Shakhtar game was another one of those classic, what could have been. We should have really beat them. You know,
but Shakhtar's interesting though, right? We checked their squad, and because of the situation in Ukraine, a lot of their players, mainly a lot of their foreign players, have either been loaned out to their clubs around the world or they've sold them. And the head's kind of saying, well, that should make them a lot weaker. But they won away to Leipzig 4-1. Appreciate the Leipzig team then is nothing like now because they've got their main man back as manager. Just unlucky for us that they brought him back again, Marco Rose, and you can see a difference in them. But to beat them 4-1 in Germany, then they also just drew with Madrid on Tuesday night. So the point I'm trying to make is I think our performance there was actually probably better looking at the results they've had against other good teams than perhaps many of us have given credit for, because we were probably a bit disappointed that all those chances again weren't taken, because we deserve to win that match by probably at least one, possibly 2 goals away from home. And the one word I think that for us that's missing, it's clinical. We're not clinical enough, and I think that's the difference at this level. And you mentioned, Monty, about the extra price tag in players who are worth that bit more, and that's what they are. They're more composed in front of goal. They're more composed picking a final pass. And for us, it's like a rush. It's like as if they're just rushing rather than just trying to remain composed. And I don't know whether that's just the limit of their ability or whether there's still growth for some of these guys, whether they've all grown in the Champions League, hopefully next year and the year after that. I don't know. But I think lack of clinical finishing is probably what's cost us.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't disagree with a word of that. I think part of it too, if you look at how we started off in this goal scoring avalanche, and then they've kind of dried up a little bit domestically as well. There's a little bit of, with Jota, and what was said, they said a bit of muscle fatigue and a bit of fatigue in general. So you burnt him really hot there for about 2 months. Give him a proper break, albeit I don't think he expected to be giving him a break in that game. I think if you look at the Shakhtar game and you look at our energy levels, we were pummeling them the last 10 or 15 minutes, which to Desi's point is interesting. We seemed to have went well for 55 against Real Madrid and then we tired. We went to Shakhtar and we looked far, far fitter than them and far, far sharper than them in the last 15, 20 minutes, especially in the last 10 actually, where there was only going to be one team, unless they picked us off on a break. And I think that when you combine that with the schedule that we have at the minute, I think that little tail off that we're seeing is a combination of trying too hard at the peak of your ability, where if you just be a bit more calm. Jota talks about these things. He talks about flow moments, just happens in the moment. If you can be that bit more, you just let it happen. You're not forcing the issue, then it tends to happen. But the difference is that the top teams, and we're finding this out, and it's a good learner. I totally agree, Hector. If we can keep at this level for the next 1 or 2 years and add quality to it, we're going to be all right under this guy. Just making sure he stays. And
Add experience. I mean, even the core group of current players, experience of playing in the Champions League together. I think if they can retain most of them with Ange and we get in next year, obviously the group, right? You could get and that's frustrating. But I think we looked at this group thinking we'd a chance, didn't we? We did.
Well,
I think that's really frustrating.
Let me put it to you. What we thought, right? Because I've got it on this WhatsApp here. Before the Shakhtar game, before the Shakhtar game, Hector, any aspirations of qualifying for the last 16? Right, stop laughing at that first. We need at least a point today. It's not a must win. This is before the Shakhtar game, but definitely a must not lose. Me being Mr. Droopy, 2-0 defeat. I reckon we can beat them at home, but doubt it away. Hector, I think we can win this by 2 goals, or possibly lose by 2 goals. The joys of Ange, right? And then I said, depends, and Monty kind of comes on to this, depends what Shakhtar turn up. And as Monty points out, Shakhtar against Leipzig had 32% possession and scored with 4 out of 5 attempts in goal versus Leipzig. A freak result, but that's clinical for you, right? But then talking about potential points, I said, I think if we get 4 points all in, then that might be more realistic, right, overall in the group. Hector, 4 points versus Shakhtar, 4 points versus Leipzig, and we go through before a joyous festa in Madrid.
I'll never learn.
To go past that, Monty, Mr. Positivity, 6 points versus Shakhtar, 2 versus Leipzig, and we'll beat Madrid in Spain. There's your 11 points, stoked. Right? So far, I'm sad to say there's more chance of me getting this right, to be brutally honest with you.
It's the small margins, Desi, right? It is small margins. We've just discussed those 2 games there, right? Yep. We should have beaten Shakhtar away. I mean, we all watched the same game, and we should have won it by probably a couple of goals, based on the chances we didn't take. At home in Madrid, we go 1-0 up. I'm not saying we win it, of course I'm not, but who knows what happens if we go 1-0 up. Maida puts one that he should put away, right? You'd expect a guy at that level to put the ball in the net, be 6 yards in front of goal. So it's just small, fine margins, I think, at this level. Yeah. Clinical.
So I'm Mr. Negativity. I thought Monty was Mr. Positivity, but Ralph, God bless him, was not on tonight. Proudly states 4 wins out of the next 4 games. That's him. So he was uber confident. And while before this podcast, folks who are listening, again, thanks for listening. Before the podcast, I was going through what's happened in the last month, and we couldn't really remember bar the stuff I'd written down. Going through the WhatsApp, I suddenly see I've noted to you three are also forgetting the emotional impact of us losing Her Majesty. So we managed to actually forget good old Lizzie had passed on during that month.
We're still in mourning here.
Exactly. Black armbands. That's what's causing it. It's the black armbands. So let me see. Where are we? So, Shakhtar. So, I mean, it was a decent enough performance. I just think it's just a shame we never got the 3 points. It was one of these shitty goals we lost. I know it was a typical Celtic goal. This kind of pop to the top and the guy runs in and scores. Remember? It was just, I know the guy's a good player and that, but it just seemed one of the avoidable goals that we always never seem to avoid in Europe. You know what I mean? It's a bit weird. So then, and I can't remember anything about this game. I've managed to blank out my mind, Hector. We managed to take him home and get absolutely humped by those football behemoths, St Mirren, 2-0 away.
I remember that. That's our worst performance in a very, very long time, and they deserved to win. We hardly created any chances of note, which is really unusual for us. It wasn't one of those ones where we missed many chances. We didn't in that game. We hardly created anything. And their game plan was ideal. They just spoiled the game, and we just seemed to get frustrated. And we played into their hands, and we deserved to lose. It's as simple as that. No excuses.
I think it was on it too, Desi, that you knew, when I say you knew, you had this, for fuck's sake, after about 2 minutes. Because the speed at which we started, the pace was like 2 gears down from what we normally do. And it never looked, we felt it felt like we were playing within ourselves, just, and I wouldn't say it with an arrogance, we just never got the engine turned in time. And then that system that St Mirren have, that's the template for anyone who's going to try and frustrate and try and do us domestically. Park the bus, hoof a ball into the box and see if you can get scraps from it. And it's, I really have no time for Robinson either, but I think he's a horrible little fucker. But, he would have enjoyed that. He would have enjoyed putting one up to us. But we really did bring it on ourselves. At one stage we had 80% possession. But as Hector points out, we did nothing with it. It's perfect. Absolute perfect rope-a-dope. And fair play to them, they got the 3 points. Horrible game.
We had Hart, Ralston, Welsh, Jens, Taylor, McGregor, Turnbull, Moy, Abada, Maeda, Kyogo. So even though we had like massive changes in the starting lineup, as you say, Monty, we still had loads of possession, but that it's all very well going across the pitch. The dynamism isn't there.
Yeah, the speed of execution, Desi, and I think the experiment in putting Moy in as the pivot, he's good, but there's a notion of the speed at which you'd want to execute that, that driving the play, pushing the agenda, pushing the team on, and it just didn't work. And you could see it wasn't working after 5 or 10 minutes. Well, this is too slow, and you just knew we were getting sucked down to St Mirren's level, and they hug it. Hopefully, it's one of them.
But it was interesting. Just at half time, he made 2 changes, didn't he? He took off Moy, and he took off. It might have been Abada, I can't remember. And yet there was no change. No change. The next 45 minutes, there was no change. It was just slow and pedestrian. Just a really, really bad day at the office. Yeah.
Just one of those days.
Yeah. Again, that was the kind of unbeaten run, the year unbeaten run or whatever in league going. But that just reminds me of something else I thought about the other night. The game will come, the Leipzig game. There was this month also that for some unknown reason, unless it's money, Tom Rogic joined bottom of the league, Steve Bruce's West Brom. And those kind of St Mirren games, and even the Leipzig game the other night, I thought that could have been a great game for Tom Rogic to have been coming on to, like for the last half an hour or whatever, to try and find a winner with his kind of skill and his kind of wee bit of vision. And I was kind of thinking, it's a bloody liberty he's actually ended up at a struggling West Brom team. I mean, we all just assumed he was going to head back closer to Australia, or just to reaffirm his World Cup. But I mean, it just seemed a bit weird.
I didn't realise they popped Steve Bruce until I went to something.
Rogic joined, he played 2 games, and then Bruce was away. He came on as a sub and then started the next one, and then Bruce was away. So, the curse of Tom. So yeah, right, so that was St Mirren. So that was basically a wee wake-up call, let's say, a wee wake-up call. And then we had St Mirren, a 2-1 win at home, Hector, and you were away working for the Outer Hebrides
Tourist Board, aye. It was Motherwell, wasn't it? Was it Motherwell 2-1? So I never seen the first 70 minutes. The time I got into the local.
Can you remember who scored before I have to look up?
So Hatate scored a peach, didn't he, for 20 yards to win it.
I was there. I couldn't remember who was saying earlier.
There you go then. There you go. So I walked into the pub, the only pub in the Highlands in Eriskay, the Politician, and we think Hatate just scored maybe 2 minutes earlier. So I caught the last maybe 20, and a nervy last 10 with Calmac gets sent off after a dreadful back pass, wasn't it? Was it Hatate? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Hatate's like that. He's an enigma, isn't he? He's either very, very good, or he could be slack with a lot of his one-touch passes.
I don't know. I think it's a bit harsh on him sometimes. Kyogo scored enough. Kyogo scored 15 minutes, and then Jordan scored an own goal. That was the own goal of the season. It was right in front of me. That was the joke. Because even worse, I had a bet on for, I think it was like Kyogo to score. Can't remember who else. Somebody else, Jota maybe to score. But Celtic 9 corners or something, and made a raft of corners, and I'm sitting going, this bet's got a cracking chance here. We go in the second half, and I kept as more and more corners, I was like, this is really good, really good. And then for some reason, and I'll say this for if anyone from Celtic Wi-Fi is listening, well done. Celtic TV Wi-Fi is actually, or Celtic Live Wi-Fi is actually working this year. You can actually get online inside the stadium, so well done to whoever put an extra 50 pence in the meter. But I remember looking up my bet, and then I realised it was Celtic half-time, Celtic full-time, and made that the greatest own goal of the season, which totally buggered the bet up in 36 minutes, with Joe Hart rushing out and Juranovic actually chasing the ball past him. So that was a bit of a disaster. And again, just one of these things, I think, but Joe Hart's always overly keen to get the ball and I don't know if you've noticed, Hector, at home games, he grabs the ball and races like 4 yards, as if here we go, and then pauses. I mean, he doesn't actually release it. He doesn't throw it like the 40 yards to one of the wingers who are going to run away and hopefully get a counter-attack. He seems to pause, and by the time he's paused, it's too late. And I can just imagine Ange going, just fucking throw the thing.
I've seen him launch it quickly a lot of times.
There's not enough. It's not a major complaint. I'm just saying, but there is a wee ground. There is grounds for improvement there. He could get the ball to. I think he just he's fearful. No, Ange is telling him, don't be fearful. You've got to take that chance. You're going to make like the Hatate style mistakes. They're going to get made because Ange is demanding.
Well, he did in Leipzig.
That's what I was going to come to. But we all know what could happen.
He took a chance there, didn't he? Know what happened?
I mean,
yeah.
That wasn't even an enforced one. Yeah, so that was Motherwell. So that kind of took the shine off the Rangers win from their previous podcast, etc. That kind of brought us back towards within one win, they could overtake us, and it makes it a wee bit tighter at the top. So that was Motherwell. So then it was Leipzig away. So, Monty, were you at that game?
I was, yes.
How was the experience?
It was actually a good trip. Flew into Prague with a good mate of ours, Snaffle Taffel, or to Dublin. The whole squad of boys just about me at that connecting flight from Edinburgh as well. So the crack was good. The flight was well full. Had a good night out in Prague on the Tuesday night, and then into Dresden on the Wednesday morning, and then changed the trains on the way up. But the trains are just full of Celtic fans coming in from everywhere. Cracking city. And a couple of boys had said, look, Leipzig's a bit of a shithole. It's actually a lovely city. It's just small. There's not a lot to do, I guess, apart from the game. Good squad there. Weather was good. Beer was good. The game itself, cracking stadium. Good sort of, how would I put it? There's good atmosphere, but it's not really. It felt like a franchise. It really did. You were there to watch a franchise. There's no real sense of passion. We're sitting beside a couple of lads who are from that part of East Germany, and they were actually cheering on Celtic. And they were telling us that they come to watch RB Leipzig to sit in the home end and cheer on the away team. So proper trolling. And it's to do with
that sounds like Desi at Celtic Park, doesn't it?
Hey! That sounds like me ruffling my travel rug in disgust every time we give away a free.
Stop across the halfway line! What's going on?
What my class?
But apparently, random fact, or at least random story, said there's 3 different districts in that part of Saxony or wherever, and none of them have an identity or a football team. And Red Leipzig franchise parachuted into the all hit. So it's meant to be like a fucking Glasgow United, if you want to call it that. But you could see the goal coming a mile away. You could see that they were targeting the first goal. You could see that they were targeting Taylor. Again, that physical difference that Strachan talked about on Tuesday night. You knew, and it's a simple tactic, high ball, where you've got a foot of an advantage, more or less, with their big right back, Sabazlai, or whatever you call him. And they did the same with Juranovic, and it's where they got, I think, their second goal from, when Werner took a ball from over the top of Juranovic's head. But you can just see, again, levels. Like, it was 3-1. Really, like, those 2 goals that were disallowed by VAR really didn't look there was anything wrong with them. They looked like good goals. So we kind of got away with a bit of a horsing, but at the same time you're thinking, we're all right here. We can compete. We just need to be more streetwise. To Hector's earlier point, maybe just a wee bit more experienced. But I think I mentioned it in the WhatsApp. I didn't realise Leipzig were last 16 3 out of the last 4 seasons, and dropped into the Europa League last year and got the semi-final, and then just were fucking ridiculously poor against that other team in Glasgow. So good trip. Square afterwards was good crack, good beer, and then just reverse for it back home the next day. So all good, Desi. Good trip all round. The result could have been better, but it was a fair result.
Yeah, but at least we did score. We did score. Thing with Kyogo laying it on. Hatate, again, that press, that high press that you like to see. Hector, Hatate winning the ball quickly. Again, with that, we're kind of missing that that quick movement with the ball. I mean, we're still a wee bit 2 touches, even 3 touches at the moment. I don't know how we've resorted back to that. I don't know, again, if it's maybe this confidence or being scared to make that, being that person that makes that mistake. You know what I mean? There's a wee bit of that.
The first half there, Monty, the first half could have been 4 each. I thought the first half we gave as good as we got. The first half, solely the first half. Second half, it was a bit like the game against them midweek with the control. They controlled the second half, right? And there's no complaints. But here's the thing, and this is, I think, is part of our doing formation, not being clinical enough. But the other part is, in my view, we've probably got about 3 real quality outfield players, right? Mm-hmm. Carter Vickers, by a distance in defence, just a level above every other defender in terms of how he defends and the calmness he brings to the back line. I think it gives the rest of the team, the guys in front of him, calmness having him behind. Kalmak, you know, when we know how good he is when he's no there, I think people really appreciate how much you miss him. We'll talk about the game just the other night there, but that was a good example of that. And Jota, I think that's probably by a wee distance, our 3 best players. Going back to the game away at Leipzig, Carter Vickers was injured and Kalmak got a bad injury in the first half. So without 2, and we just can't carry that. We talked about having a bit of luck. We got luck on the field, I felt, that night with a couple of decisions that went our way. But in terms of having our best players, we can't afford to lose 2 of our 3 best players. Other guys who fight for right wing positions or other midfield berths or full back berths, we can get by. We can't afford to miss 2 of those 3. And that was in midweek. Jota and Kalmak were missing against Leipzig at home as well. And they're big players for us. That's reality.
It's that bit of quality too, Hector, that both of them have. And it's that first touch or that little bit of extra pace. And Desi touched upon it at the start, that maybe Jota at the Madrid game, kind of a bit of a grounder for him. But think about it, it's Real Madrid. Mm-hmm. You know, he's just now gone toe-to-toe for the first time in his life with the champions of Europe. And he didn't have the normal impact he has, but like anybody, it's his first proper game in that environment. This is learning, this notion of learning, being the finished article. As someone pointed out, Leipzig are the finished article. There might be 1 or 2 projects in their team, but 8 of their team are the finished article. They're at their peak. They're in their mid-20s. Absolute top drawer players. With the next couple of years would see them move on from being a 20 or 30 million player to maybe being signed by Madrid or a Barcelona or fucking Chelsea or something like that. In fact, I believe Nkunku has signed a deal to go to Chelsea. And he looked ridiculously bad last year against Huns. Mm-hmm. And I watched him, he just, fucking what a striker. Everything you'd ever want. So, if we're missing, to your point, Hector, 2 or 3 of we only have maybe a nucleus of, let's say 5, if you include Hart. Carter Vickers.
And Kyogo on his game. We know he's good for a wee dip. On his game, he's a good player. But maybe not the same level. Aye.
There's your 5. And then around the periphery, we've got Abada, who's a project. I like the looks of Haksabanovic, by the way. I really think he is. He's got it. He's got the fucking smarts. And he seems to have that, what do you call it? Not nastiness, but you know what I mean. He's got that callous. He's got that guy. He wants to fucking get into it. And he wants to make it happen. I think he's going to be really good for us. But there's 5. But that's it. And if you lose 2 of them, you won't have behind your back in the fight. You're not going to win it. At that level.
We'll come on to this week's game in a minute. But again, I've been kind of saying this week a lot that I envisage the next couple of windows we will see quite. I mean, we keep thinking, the squad's looking quite good, but I think Ange will be sitting, as you say there, Monty. Big Taylor's doing a decent job. Just a bit short in the arse. Mikael Lustig's just retired. He was a great big 6'1" right back.
Yeah.
That way, the sort of presence we could be doing in our kind of full back positions across. I mean, like Matt O'Reilly again. He's got the physique. Maybe not as strong as a Carter Vickers, but he's got the height and the range to kind of cover the ground. You know what I mean, and cover the height. But he just needs to get used to the actual demand of Champions League football. Yeah. So I can imagine there'll be a few changes. Let me just go back to the comments just after the Leipzig game, right? Hector, and this is where you started to lose your love for Twitter, let's say, right? And as everybody knows, Hector and I share the eTimsNet Twitter account, so thanks very much if you're following us, and if you're not, please do, and let us know what you think. But Hector, some amount of negativity on Twitter. It's as if many think we are the finished article. No sense of perspective. Every mistake magnified as if it's the end of the world. They are a quality team since bringing their old manager back in just a few weeks. Monty, I can't believe folk are banging on negatively. They're quality. We're competitive. Our goal was a breakaway. I mean, what the actual fuck do people expect? If we sharpen up in the final third, prophetic words by the way, if we sharpen up in the final third, we'll be okay. Hector, they'll whinge about Jota's goal anyway, saying it was too near the keeper. Right? And then I said, I don't actually mind being Mr. Negative. We just don't have enough presence, and that brings us back to the height and the physicality, Monty, to face such athleticism. And only Atati is currently playing the ball at 1 touch speed. So our fluency is missing. Hart is now under scrutiny after that Gussie a goal, right? But I said this is after the Leipzig game because he made an arse at the Juranovic own goal, and then that's why it was 2 games in a row. That's what I'm talking about. He was under scrutiny, so he had 2 big mistakes in 2 consecutive games, Hector. That's all I'm saying. All I am reflecting is on current affairs, right?
Oh, no. Knee jerks.
Listen to me. Hart is under scrutiny, but I can't see him being dropped. James has a long way to go, but it's not his fault with having such new footballing demands on a centre-half. And Ange keeps trying to highlight that he's asking like his defenders to play as attackers. I mean, they're to be footballers. They're not just to be guys that clear it into Rose Ed, which is probably what they've done for 80% of their playing career. I mean, you clear the lines or you win the ball and you give it to the midfielder in front of you. We all have those natural assumptions that any footballer can play any football, but it's all levels. Everything's relative. I mean, like, a good defender can defend, but he can't necessarily be Frank Beckenbauer. I mean, and then we're a long way off of being a 90-minute team at this level and still a few players short. I'd rather we die on our feet, though, than park the bus, unlike some, I think we all know who we're talking about, and I would expect January signings. Okay? And then, Mr. Positive, Monty, agree, but like Madrid, it doesn't feel like a 3-1 defeat. But then again, as you mentioned, they did have 2 goals disallowed and were better than us. They're our benchmark. So that's an interesting wee phrase there, Monty. They're our benchmark. Even though they've got quadruple the budget or whatever.
I think what I mean by benchmark is the finished article. And I touched upon that. If we can keep this nucleus together and add to it for the next 2 years, not projects, not like Bernabei looks like a really good attacking. He's another Greg Taylor, though he's not that physical profile.
He's got this pace that Taylor doesn't have, though.
But I was just about to say, Hector, but he does have something that Taylor doesn't have. So he does have speed, he does have pace, and he's got time on his side. If we can add to that and get a settled team, and those stats that I mentioned, 10th in terms of total chances created and good chances, but 26th out of 32 in terms of possession. You see that efficiency. That efficiency. Now, I'm sure there's other stats as well going back the other way around the chances that we concede that might balance that. But we have a system that if we can mature it for the next 2 years and add quality to it, I think then, Leipzig, 3 out of the last 4 years, last 16, Europa League semi-finalists. There's absolutely no reason why under Postecoglou, with investment, that the system that we have can't get us to that benchmark. And I think last year, for the other half of Glasgow, you look at their challenge, one-off, the planets aligned. You look at what Haaland's doing down in England, they couldn't make those games. It was just a beautiful year for them to get that far. I think they get to that level.
I hate to say it, I'm going to say it, but see, it's a process just now with Ange. And your point, Monty, about Leipzig, and they've been doing this now for the best part of at least half a dozen years. So it wasn't 1 year switch. There's a mechanism, there's a method in how they do things. Yeah, they've got a bigger budget. I don't think it's 4 times as big as ours. It's maybe 50% or 100%. Still more than us. But there's a process where it's good scouting. It's maybe paying a bit more for a player. So we always bought the £2 to £3 million. Edouard was the exception. And it's just this season, I think, with Jota and Carter Vickers, we've kind of went to 6.5. If we're willing to go to 9 or 10 for a player or two and take that risk, because it's risk and reward. And the risk and reward should be less risk if the manager's good at scouting players. And Ange has proved so far he's very good at scouting players. So if we want to push the boat a wee bit further out there, if we want to do that and bring in 1 or 2 that could be diamonds for us, we move on potentially. If we do that and they're good, it should make the team better. But I was concerned, let's get back a year, about how we play in Europe. And I remember, hands up, I said, look, we're so wide open. But then I bought in now fully to what Ange's want to do. Desi, your point earlier, I no longer want us to park the bus. I'm not interested anymore. I don't want to watch that style of football. Let's go with Ange. Let's just say, let him try and do what he's going to try and do. Hopefully, next season the Champions League, and hopefully the season after that. And let's see how we do. And I'm optimistic that we'll see improvement. We'll see improvement in all areas of the team.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter, shout out to the 20-minute Tims, there was a wee clip on Twitter. They put an advert up for one of their podcasts, and one of their guys was saying, Ange is basically saying, listen guys, I'm trying it my way. Scottish football, you've tried it your way. You've tried playing these different systems, parking the bus, laughing at you, all that. It didn't work. So there's no harm in me actually sticking with my philosophy. I'm not changing because your way doesn't work. Getting back to getting big guys, like last night watching that Rangers Liverpool, watching Lundstrom just watching the ball up and the minute you're like, really? Is that modern football? It's crazy. But so I think it's not even goodwill that Ange has got now. Obviously, he's earned a lot of goodwill, but I'm trying to think of the right word.
He's clear his philosophy, Des.
It's buy-in. I know we've all bought into it, but even though we know, again, I don't know how somehow the media are creating a 2-0 defeat that we suffered that night to Leipzig. Well, we're in the game for a good 65, 70 minutes at least, to a 7-1 defeat to Liverpool, as if it's all a disgrace, and you go, no, it's not a disgrace. There's obviously areas where you can tick a box and you can see, hold on a minute, we've already improved for the first game in the Champions League this year. So we are edging down the road. I'm just looking at Ralph's review of that Leipzig game, and it's basically, Hart's got that calamity out of his system. I feel a lot better now. We should just wear the hoops. So Ralph's obviously just blaming that strip we wore that night. So that's obviously getting binned. But I replied to him, Andy's philosophy is make or break a player. Like he did it with Hatate last year. You'll go through that barrier. You don't know how far you can go until you've went. He won't be slow in replacing where he needs to. And that's why I think it's obvious. I think there's a few players we can see are starting to get to the end of their kind of Ange road, or else they're going to really have to kick on pretty quick. I've said it a few times.
Do you not think it's also a learning curve?
David Turnbull would be the first one I would highlight. Every time I've watched Turnbull this season, he's failed the Ange audition. And I don't want to single him out, but it's just like players have got to start stepping up, or I think Ange will start saying, sorry, but it's time for you to move on. I need to replace you with somebody who can make.
But do you not think it's a learning?
It's really hard.
In the Champions League, it's such a learning curve for almost all of those players who haven't played in the Champions League, because we don't have guys in there who are first team regulars who are 32, 33, apart from Joe Hart. All the outfield players, in my opinion, have got scope for improvement and as a team. So the way I would probably see it is it's a hell of a learning curve. You're going to learn a lot. Get into next year with at least one or two good additions, and we can as a team look to improve. I'm not saying qualify for the last six, but improve in terms of the clinical. I keep mentioning this, but even the game during the week against Leipzig, the chances that we didn't take, first 20 minutes we couldn't get a kick of the ball, and then we had arguably the three best chances. Kyogo's header, you've got to hit the target and ideally score. We hit the post, we hit the bar, and you're thinking, we're creating so many chances. See, if we weren't creating hee-haw, I'd be a bit more despondent, to say the least, but we're creating so many chances. It means we're doing a lot of things really well, apart from the most important part in football, which is putting the ball in the back of the net. Yeah. So I think there's optimism there within reason. There's optimism. Yeah,
but there is. But I'll put my hard reality again. I'm playing a hard realist kind of here. From an Ange perspective, Monty, he's only going to stick with people who don't take those chances for so long. But again, like, to be fair to him, he done really good, I think. I thought defending Maeda the other night. He basically said, Maeda's like a lot of the Japanese guys, they've only been playing a few years. Like you say, Hector, it's a massive learning curve for most of them, but imagine coming from Japan and then getting thrown into the Scottish League and then getting thrown into the Champions League. I mean, again, we assume these guys are going to take things in their stride because they had a great start to their careers, but life doesn't work out that way. But Ange did well that night. I thought really like defending him in public and saying, we're not going to abandon a guy because he's on the road to progress, just because he's not made it yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think, Desi, there's a ceiling that you'll get to with every player.
Yeah.
Everybody hits their level. And then I think with Postecoglou's style and his focus is to try and develop the individual, a bit like Rodgers would have done, but maybe with a wee bit more authenticity, you could argue, for Postecoglou. And it's this notion that you don't know your limits until you hit them. And the minute you accept your limits, so that's your limit. It's the old classic, whether you're right, whether you think you're right or whether you think you're wrong, either way, you're right. So I think he's pushing guys. The physical side of their limit will be margins. You know, they talk about professional footballers. There's very, very little difference between how fast you can travel over 10 yards, 20 yards, 100 yards, whatever it is. Unless you're that exceptional, top 1% or whatever it is. So Postecoglou's pushing these guys as hard as he can inside a system and to a level of fitness that most of them have probably never known before. So you look at all of that fucking madness and pressing. We're going to blow up after 60 minutes, 65 minutes. If you accept that you think you can't get any better than that, then I agree, Desi, you just won't make it. So you turn them over, turn the asset over, sell it to someone who'll give you decent money and you go again. I think the challenge for us is going to be buying ready-made players who don't believe that 65 minutes at that level of intensity is their limit. And I doubt very much, by the way, that any of the players in the dressing room are saying, I just can't do it for fucking 70. They're not. But they're hitting those limits, and that is the limit of their ability, and that's back to Strachan's commentary last night. So you can get into people's heads. Remember the old Martin O'Neill, Bobby Pettis story? The notion that he got... This is
There's a lot of huge Bobby Pettis stories going around.
One of the more repeatable. He knew that Pettis he knew there was a player in there. And he knew that Pettis was by and large a confidence player. So apparently in one of the training sessions, he got told Robertson, tell Pettis he's the fastest in the sprints. So he wasn't. But Robertson kept doing it to build the guy's confidence up. There's no notion of fucking magic dust on his boots. And all it was getting into the player's head and telling him, you're actually fucking really quick. He wasn't brilliantly quick, but he could get past the player and whip across him, which is all O'Neill wanted him to do. Old basic psychology shit. I think Postecoglou takes sports science and psychology to a different level, as you would expect high-performing Australian culture to do. And it's there that we'll find whether these guys can break through a ceiling or not. And remember too, Hattadi's only been playing professional football for fucking 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So we've got loads of really rough fucking diamonds in there, but some of them just won't make it. And I go back to Haksabanovic. I think Haksabanovic has got the technique, the application, but also the attitude. I think he will be one that will definitely make it to the next level with
I would agree with you, but I noted earlier on, I think he's also got the physique that we need. He's a little bit bigger, he's a little bit broader. I mean, as you say, he's got maybe a little bit of attitude, and I think that's quite come in handy. But this taught me Bobby, Peter, Martin O'Neill there. You suddenly made me long. I've never thought I'd say these words. You suddenly made me long for Steve Guppy, a man who could land a ball in pipings. Wing. Especially when you saw Maeda's crossing attempt the other night, which got a lot of derision, which was just one of the mistakes. I think he just tried to get the ball in early and it just went right at the park. So moving on from Leipzig, we were due to face St Johnstone away, and we hadn't had a podcast for a while. So I'd said, what about a podcast? This is last Friday or the previous Friday. We're going to do it. I said, how about we aim for next week? Either pre or post Euro game, we can talk about Giakoumakis' hat trick in Perth. And I know Giakoumakis did score, but it wasn't exactly a hat trick in Perth sort of day, was it, Hector?
No, it was I kind of relative subdued start, first 20 or so, but then after that, honest to God, we should have been about 4-0 up. We're going to say it again, we're going through a spell just now, we're just not taking more chances collectively as a team. Get through the midfielders, get through the attackers. It's just no happening, but that's just football. You get through these spells like that. What was good to see was, I'll be honest with you, you had a feeling that Johnson were going to score because they had 2 cracking chances before that, and I thought, we're hanging on here. But see, when they scored, I thought, oh, fuck. I actually thought it's a draw, guaranteed draw. So to then get back up the park, with James McCarthy, of all people, right, who hasn't had much of a look in, and his tenacity, by the way, to win that ball back and feed it through to Bernabe, and it was a stunning cross. And the big man doing what he does best. He's a penalty box, 6-yard box poacher, isn't he, Giakoumakis? And the scenes were excellent. That might be one of those games you look back at the end of the season as a key result for us, that one, because they're losing. We're in struggling against Motherwell, losing our Champions League games. To also draw that, to put us under a fair bit of pressure, I think, domestically. So that's when you look back on. But Giakoumakis is interesting because a lot of the chances haven't been falling to him. Funnily enough, of all the players you want is your fox in the box, and see, he is that guy. But it seems to be falling to Abada, who's not very clinical. Again, it's not quite happening for him. Maeda, definitely not happening for him just now. Or Kyogo, and it's not happening. But for some reason, Giakoumakis just not quite falling for him. And he's the guy I'd want to get these 1-on-1 opportunities of all the players right now.
Yeah. And we did get Carter Vickers back for the St Johnstone game, so that was a nice early surprise because we weren't sure how long that was going to last. But of course, we now also have our captain out of the game, Monty, and I forgot to mention that. Thing me, what do you call him? Callum McGregor a good while. So again, quite a impact. I'm trying to think, how can we phrase it? Quite an impact on our side overall. We've always talked about a spine of the side, but Callum McGregor is the heart of the whole team. Everything kind of goes through him. Even the tempo is ran by him. He's the
brains of the team, Desi.
He's the brains, heart, spine, the lot, mainly of the actual team. So it'd be interesting to see, like, Carter Vickers has been made the captain. I seen Matt O'Reilly doing his press conference saying Carter Vickers, again, he doesn't say much, but he leads very much by example, and he reassures them all just by being there, which I think we've kind of missed a lot during October when he was out.
Yeah, you can't underestimate the impact of losing your captain, and it goes back to developing as individuals, developing as a squad, developing a style, and that whole drive and setting the tempo. And McGregor's huge for us in that regard. But we're going to be in a scenario where at some point you're going to lose him. Players get injured. Anything can happen at any given point. We're losing him now in a period where we're really, really busy. So the players don't really have time to kind of mope about it. They've got to step up, as Postecoglou said, but he's also stepped in. Interestingly, there was an interview last week, just after McGregor's injury was confirmed, and Postecoglou said along the lines of, it's my job now to step in, otherwise what's the point of me being a manager here? I've got to give them the tools to cope with the reality that's now facing, but he also expected players to step up. And I think Carter Vickers is definitely one that players, you know yourself, even playing at our basic amateur level, you always gravitated to the guy who was really good or the guy who just was really solid. He's the guy that everybody takes their lead from. And I think Carter Vickers as a stand-in, and I thought it was interesting that he didn't give it to Hart, by the way. I thought Carter Vickers as a stand-in, that'll be really good for him in terms of his own development. But yeah, it's a big impact for us losing that metronome, as Hector says, someone who sets the speed, the pace, everything.
A question for you both, right? It's not, we don't have a like-for-like replacement for Carmack. We all know that, right? But we're talking about the St Johnstone game. We spoke about Moy just not in that deeper line, no giving us what we thought we might just get from him. But anyway, that's by the by. But talk St Johnstone game. James McCarthy. Why did he do well to help win that game, and yet he's never given a sniff, for example, against Leipzig? My wee brain's just trying to work out, he contributed, he did really well, he must be buzzing. Why would he not be a guy you bring on as a sub instead of saying Moy? I'm obviously the manager's a manager, I watch them every day, but I can only base it on what I see for a 10-minute spell or 15-minute spell, and I just think, is there something amiss there?
Yeah.
That alludes to, I think we would say, a great Twitter debate which is kind of going on at the moment, and that is Ange's substitutions, big question mark. A lot of people are questioning, does he make the right subs? Like he's making 3 subs at a time, or that it seems to disjoint the team rather than initially it was keeping the flow going, but now we just seem to be kind of breaking down as soon as we bring the 3 subs on, etc. Then Hector, as you maybe mentioned there, is it the correct subs he's actually using? Is he rotating the squad correctly? And I don't know the answers. I mean, again, we brought a big defensive midfielder, which I think a lot of his folk would have maybe started at against Leipzig, but never even come off the bench kind of thing. I know it might not be ready, but these are the sort of things that on the sidelines we maybe think, some of us might think would happen, but maybe I'll need it. Not me.
But you brought him on away to Leipzig in the first half.
That's what I'm trying. So it's not the inconsistency. It's kind of no real. We just assumed it would be a beautiful flowing process of improvement and enhancement, and incremental. People would get up to speed, and people would be ready, and then everyone would be hitting this 95th percentile of performance all the time. Whereas it's still very much a roller coaster, it appears. But again, now it appears that we're relying on James Forrest. Who saw that one coming? You know what I mean?
Injuries though, Desi, innit? Injuries. Abada went off again, didn't he?
So yeah. we just don't know. We just don't know. So that was St Johnstone. But again, it's always nice afterwards to have a beautiful last minute, last gasp winner, especially when you've got folk like Hugh Keevans ranting on the radio. This is St Johnstone scored about how Celtic season's imploding. They can't score at one end and they can't keep the ball out of the net at the other. Even though we've got the highest goals in the league and the lowest conceded goals in the league, etc., etc. And suddenly, goal flash. Celtic have ran up the park and scored. It's always a beautiful moment to score that last minute goal, isn't it? Because you just imagine at least half of Scotland kicking hopefully an imaginary dog or cat in anger. And again, Rangers were due to play at Ibrox. This is that going in. So again, apparently the car horns were beeping all over Copeland Road when St Johnstone equalised. So it's always a nice sweet feeling to get that last minute winner. Hopefully we don't need to rely on them very often. But then that brings us to Leipzig this week. Tuesday. Were you confident going in, Monty, before it? Did you think the home advantage could carry us over the line, or did you have a sense of realism? Because obviously you'd seen game up close.
Yeah. I would have took a point before the game, 100%. I'd have took a point even at half time. Just seeing how much more composed and how much more the finished article they were the week before. You're thinking, take a point here, beat Shakhtar next week. Not expecting that Madrid would get not expecting Madrid would end up having to scramble for a draw in Warsaw. We'd be all right. We'd get third. Strange one, even at half time. The head ruling hard. Hector talked about it earlier, thinking, fuck, we're well in this. We're doing really well here. And then just two really good moments of quality. But I'd be lying if I said before the game I was confident. No. We're just not there. We're not at that level yet, but we're learning. And we're not that far away, which I think is staggering progress in 16 months.
I think you had the perfect word there, composure. Real composure. And again, Hector, Ange has alluded to this. We've got to have the composure and the bravery to make those passes or attempt those passes. And in regards Joe Hart making a mistake in Leipzig, Ange just dismissed it and said one of them was going to make that mistake because it was coming. He could see it coming. Again, that's another question about the subs. Maybe he should have done something about it. Because the ball started going back away, we weren't playing the forward passes. We didn't have the composure in possession, Monty, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So obviously, again, it's still a work in progress, Hector. But the other night, the first half, I thought it was a really great tense game of football. Again, they did look better, but we were standing up to them and getting into the right places.
I thought we were tentative the first 20 minutes. I thought they controlled it, and they kind of came at us, and we were a bit. Some of the players maybe just were off it a wee bit, and that's football. It can happen, right? But first half was pretty much after that was end to end. We had the better chances. Second half, they totally controlled the game, and this is where we miss Callum McGregor so much. As what you said, composure and control. With him not being there, Mattarelli stepped into it, and Mattarelli did actually. I thought Mattarelli did okay, but Hatate, a bit of times he gave the ball away, and he was trying to do the brave thing, as Ange would say it, the right thing, as Ange would say it. He's trying to use the ball quickly, and I mean quickly. It's a one-touch pass. It's not touch pass. It's first time move it. But unfortunately, against them during the week, he must have given it away in dangerous areas, not far from your box, but 4 or 5 times. Yeah. So Ange will probably look at that and reflect and go, no, you keep doing that. It'll come, keep doing it. But supporters, as we know, in the stadium going, oh, fuck. Fuck's sake. Well, you get him to fuck. You know what it's like. And all of that's just nerves, right? People are at the game. But McGregor's that man with the composure and control to give space to Hatate, to give space to Rayleigh, to bring that level of confidence to the team. And when he's not there, they lack that in midfield. At that level, they lack that in midfield.
See, like, strangely, especially with St Johnstone or the St Mirren game, I actually thought Moy did quite well at that when he came on. He was putting a shooter in, retaining the ball, turning it, moving it.
The Motherwell game.
He played that lovely 1-2 with Maeda. He seemed to be up for that kind of, and he knew where to play and when to play. And I thought as if he had the kind of football sense of how to play against Leipzig. It was just a shame he's not got the legs to play for 90 minutes. But I thought he did seem to have the ability. But
he has got ability. He definitely has got the technical ability. But as you said, it's possibly the other aspects that maybe he did have when Ange had him in the Aussie team. Maybe 3-4 years or more than that, I'd imagine now, isn't it? He was there. But listen, they deserve to win. We had the chances again, but you know.
I'm just looking at the WhatsApp here. Monty, our resident statistician, 53 chances created in four CL games. Tiny margins, 2 goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hector, I thought we stood off them too much. whenever we pressed them high, they didn't fancy it, but we only did it in fleeting glimpses. Unlike clubs with massive budgets, we cannot afford to miss two of our best players in Cal Mack and Jota. I feared the physicality, and at times we just had wee guys watching big guys. And this goes back to what you were mentioning in the first game, Monty, that they were targeting Taylor. And the worst thing I think for Taylor was he was in the correct position every time. He just couldn't compete against a guy with a ball 3 feet above his head. No, that way. It just couldn't be helped. It was just height.
There was an episode right at the end, towards the tail end of the game, where I think you call that guy Simisai or something like that. Strange name, but he went on a run down the right wing, and Maeda tracked back, and someone else tracked back with him, or Taylor and someone else, and they literally both bounced off him, and he still came out with the ball. And that's where you're looking at. That's your elite player versus players aspiring to be elite players, but physically just don't have the attributes to get there. Now you could try and bulk Greg Taylor out, or Abada will develop and become more physical or more of an athletic build, but then you're taking away some of his pace. So that's just reality. It's just a physical reality, and nothing worse when you're a short arse like me, playing against somebody who's 5 or 6 inches taller than you in the middle of midfield. All you can do is kick him. Nothing you can fucking do about it.
Hope you get close enough to kick him.
Yeah.
And I listened. I don't know. It was crazy at Celtic Park the other night. I don't know how you were getting home, Hector, but it was absolutely mental coming from Parkhead to the south side. So I ended up being in the car, pulling up in the car just as Ange's press conference came on. And I say he did well defending Maeda, I thought. But overall, basically his speech, his whole interview basically was summed up with keep the faith. You've got to keep the faith. He's keeping the faith in himself. He's keeping faith in the players. They're working on it. They're improving. They're getting there. Rome was not built in a day. And like I wrote here, we were in there jabbing away for 70 minutes, but a good big in will almost always beat a good wee in. And that's how I kind of saw it.
Maeda's an interesting one, because we know that going forward it's not happening for him. We can clearly all see that. No dispute with that, right? He's going through a spell where it's a struggle for him. But here's the thing that maybe a lot of fans aren't perhaps looking at and picking up on. The defensive work he brought to that team, even against Leipzig during the week.
Yep.
It was going pretty much from the right back to the left mid into their centre half at times. He was doing almost like in a triangle with 3 players constantly. And I don't think we ever play like that in our team that can do what he does with these level of sprints he does. A lot of folk will go, so what? But it's vital, because if he's not doing that, the space they're getting, the extra players they're getting in good positions, they're walking through us. So just something to be mindful of for maybe one or two who don't really look at that. If you get a chance to look back at that Leipzig game, just watch Maeda when we're in possession and it's in his area. Just watch the pressing he does to make it difficult for them in 3 positions.
And Ange talked about that. Maeda's recovery levels from sprints, as he called it before he signed, or just as he signed, he says it's elite level. So Maeda's got something that none of the rest of them have. Maeda can do a 50-yard flat out, meet road runner, take a breath, go and do it again. Take a breath, go and do it again. Take a breath, go and do it again. None of the rest of them can. They're all fucked after 10 of those. And that allows us then, the press that we talk about, you watch Kyogo, you watch Maeda, you watch O'Reilly, you watch them all do this. And there were turnovers where we got possession off the back of just simply that fucking really fast, hard work press. And you got to take that into account when you're looking at the guys when you're looking at his going forward stats. You know, that ball that he hit in where he could have took an extra touch. Again, he's fucking trying, but he's probably at the limit of his technical ability, where an extra touch maybe, is too late. So
he had a volley to try and score, didn't he? By the way, it wasn't an easy chance.
No.
It was just a side foot volley, but even just hit the target, and I think it's confidence with him, unfortunately. Yeah. I would love him just to get a goal or two, because everything else about his game, unfortunately, apart from the attacking bit, which is, he isn't an attacker, right? It's just not happening. But everything else about him is faultless in terms of his effort. He's what he brings to the team. But
right. I'd say 2 points on that, right? 2 points on that. Hector, you did really well there, kind of summing up the actual coverage he's doing and the job he's doing. And he's also helping to supplement. Kyogo isn't doing it as much. So he's also supplementing that wee bit that he's missing with Kyogo. But I would also say it's the kind of brat back factor. I mean, like, Maeda's a lot better. Like, even our night with the kind of overlapping runs, there was a couple of 1-2s, and when the ball's played into space for him to race onto, and then hit across the box, that's his kind of forte, rather than expecting him to dribble or beat somebody or immediately find the ball, in the box, that shared box being ready like a Giakoumakis. He's kind of get like, I think he needs a wee bit of space and to utilise his speed. So I'm not going to say he's going to make a right decision, but that's his strength.
There's something else as well, and it's the classic about him being too fast for the rest of the team around him. Watch his runs. Watch his first time run. Because he's not, whenever he hits that box, watch Maeda's intelligence, right? But the problem is, he is about a step ahead of where the ball is. And what I mean by that is, he's making a run that if the other players are on a peer level with him for pace, they're putting the ball in. And he's having to check these runs constantly. And I think that's coached into him, that's what you do. And I think that's part of the challenge here, because he's trying too hard and maybe he's fucking making the run too quick, where just a little check and he's in.
His head on the first 2 minutes. He was slightly ahead of the ball.
Just ahead of the ball.
The ball was slightly behind him, so I think so. Maybe he has to adapt.
And
he's got to adapt his game.
That's what I'm saying, Hector. That little, just take a step and then go. And you can coach that. And you can coach that when the confidence comes, and then it'll just be, as Jota calls it, flow moments. It'll just fucking happen. Our goal scoring ratio for those first few games this season was exceptional domestically. Everything we fucking hit went in. We're just struggling now, but it just happens that Giakoumakis was injury disrupted. Kyogo was injury disrupted. Maeda's been in the team and hasn't really played. So I think Abada played one against centre half earlier in the season as well, or switched to it at one point with a couple of.
Abada's now injured. Jota may or may not be back.
He's fatigued. So Maeda and Haksabanovic are going to get a run. Jimmy Forrest's probably going to get a run on the right hand side as well. No,
can I throw something at you, two of you then, right? Mm-hmm. So we're at home to Hibs this weekend, and Hibs normally are one of those teams that will have a go to a degree, right? You get more of an open game normally. Don't want to jinx it, but that's normally the case. And we've discussed this before. How about, I know Ange won't do it. I know he won't do it, but I'm putting it out there. No, what we do, Giakoumakis is your number 9 because that's his position, but he covers the ground, right? We first signed Kyogo, and Ange first signed him. Kyogo, because Edouard was there, remember at the time? Kyogo played a lot of the first few games wide left, didn't he? But coming into striker. Why not put Kyogo there, just off Giakoumakis, against Hibs this weekend?
So you're advocating a 4-2-4 or a 4-2-1-3?
No, just putting Kyogo wide left, as he did when he first signed him. Remember Edouard was still with us at the time? And I thought he was excellent there, because he doesn't hug the left touchline. He goes into the striker role as well. Could we not try him there, as we did last year, and have Giakoumakis through the middle?
The only reason I wouldn't do it is I would give Maeda a run. Confidence players just need game. They need game time.
Put him on the right-hand side. Put him on the right-hand right wing. He's right-footed, isn't he? He's right-footed.
But I think you're going to see Forrest play a start. I think you're going to see James Forrest start.
Oh yeah, Haksabanovic, we'll see play.
Haksabanovic, O'Reilly and Hattadi will be your middle three, with O'Reilly at the pivot. I think James Forrest will start right, and Maeda will start left. I would keep him there. I would definitely keep him there. I wouldn't drop him. And I think we should be playing 2 domestically up front, but I'm not the manager. And the system trumps the individual, and the system trumps the situation.
No, but my thing is, I think Kyogo though has proved he can play that position, because he played there the first half dozen to 8 games or so. And he was really good. He scored goals.
But the knock-on effect of it is that you have a guy that you need to just pull up a little bit in Maeda and get him fucking confident again. And you've Kyogo and Giakoumakis. We just need a bit of game time to get sharpness back.
So that's kind of my point.
Start Maeda, start Giakoumakis.
Put him wide right. He's played there before this season.
Right, so what I would say to that is, it's Hibs at home. Hibs aren't exactly on. Why not play 4 up front? Why not play 4-2-4?
Not the system.
But so you adapt the system. As Anne said, his 4-3-3 is actually very much a free flowing 4-3-3. Another night, I have no idea Abada was playing. He was standing right in front of me, totally lost, watching the game pass him by. He didn't have a clue where he was meant to be. I don't know what his instructions were the other night, because he didn't have a clue when to track back. He didn't have a clue when to come to the line. He just stood. I put it in the diary as outside, inside, right. As if he just stood in that wee kind of position, going, right, what did I do now? And the game just totally passed. And Leipzig just ran right past him every time. And that's so I think there's a danger in changing it too much. So Monty, chances are he will go in Maeda and someone else, James Ross or Haksabanovic. But again, if your strength is, this brings us back to the question, Ange, Hector, if your strength is your two forwards, play your two forwards. No, that's sort of why your Giacomakis, rather than relying on somebody coming on and saving the day. You know what I mean?
But it's no square pegs and it's no.
Matt O'Reilly and Hatate could handle Hibs' midfield. You know what I mean?
It's no square pegs and round holes is the point I'm trying to make as well. But different if it's like, remember, was it Rodgers put Kalmack to left back? Yeah. Right, that's just a bit mad, right? I'm not saying that. Kyogo can easily play as a left forward that comes into striker role, because he did that with us when we first signed him and he was fantastic. All I'm saying is, we've got a few injuries right now. These guys need minutes. They need some goals. Against Hibs at home, it's probably a good chance to do it. And it works with the current system Ange wants as well. That's my point. So I'm just floating the idea, right?
Okay, right. So what about left back? Are we bringing Bernabe back rather than Taylor?
I would.
At the weekends.
He needs minutes. The boy needs minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It hasn't looked out of place in any of the minutes that he's got. Now he's settling in. He looks like a good player, and to Hector's earlier point, he's got the pace that Taylor doesn't have. So from an attacking point of view, looks good. Looks technically good as well. I like it a lot.
You playing Ralston?
I would.
I would. If he comes in, I'd be okay with that. Him or Janovic, yeah.
See, the only thing about that, right, so again, I'm all for utilising the squad and getting the squad right up to, as I say, as high peak as they can be, but it's getting those relationships. Like, say, there's a lot of today relationships, like your inverted fullbacks, etc., getting forward. And I think that was also impacted by Carter Vickers. I don't think Juranovic and Taylor were getting as forward as they could have, because they were a wee bit scared of that guy behind them. Hopefully that will be rectified. So what's your prediction then for Hibs then, Monty? We'll close this up on Hibs. What's your prediction?
I think we'll rediscover our goal scoring touch this week. We've just looked so close and knocking on the door. As Hector said,
a hat trick for Maeda, you're saying then?
I think he'll get one if he starts. I think we'll score a couple. We'll probably leak one too, although Carter Vickers back tends to stabilise things. And by the way, I haven't talked about Jens. I thought Jens was brilliant.
Him and Carter Vickers were outstanding.
They were outstanding. Really, really good looking fucking centre half.
Again, we'll get Starfelt missing. That was another injury we never mentioned.
Another key one. So
I lost the audio there for a wee second.
I said Starfelt.
Can't hear you.
Starfelt, you heard.
So prediction, Desi, I think we'll score 2 or 3. We'll probably leak one, but that's fine. But yeah, I think we'll score 2 or 3. And if Maeda starts, I'd back him to score.
Nice. Okay, so we're going 5 points clear then, Hector. Saturday, 5 o'clock Saturday.
3-0 Saturday to Celtic.
3-0, nice. Okay, I'll go for 4-0. I'll be more optimistic. I'll go for 4-0. A Stephen Welsh double to close it out. Right, so coming up, we've only got 10 minutes left. Our chief scout has to go away in a few minutes. Right, coming up, we'll get Hibs, Motherwell and Hearts. So again, this is when you're really testing your squad all in the next week. Hibs, Motherwell and Hearts. Are we seeing 3 victories for that, do you think, Monty? Tough games, realistic. Hearts are rotten, I have to say. Every time I've seen Hearts, they're absolutely shit.
But they'll raise their game against us.
They'll kick us over the park.
They'll kick us over the park. I think we should see 3, unless we get really, really fucking unlucky with another injury or 2. So, yeah, I'll take 9 points out of that.
Mm-hmm. And then Shakhtar at home, Hector.
Motherwell's the league cup.
Sorry, Motherwell's the league cup. Apologies. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
It's a Fir Park, isn't it? That's next.
Yeah. So yeah, no reason why there's not 3 wins.
I'll go with that. 3 wins. Shakhtar. I've seen enough against them away to think we can beat them. But again, if we get Jota back and Carter Vickers, I think we could beat them.
Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting, I think, especially with him having a good result against Real Madrid.
I'd love us to beat them for obviously Celtic, but see, because if we can beat them, it means you're going to Madrid, and Madrid hopefully are playing their D team, which will probably still cost more than ours, right? And it might be that
team would probably beat us, to be fair.
Aye, but see if you could go there knowing that a point might somehow miraculously finish third, it just adds something to the game, doesn't it?
I don't rule that out. Don't rule it out. Seriously.
Mr. Optimistic. Oh. You still think we can get 11 points. So again, so just a quick one liner, Hector. Ange ball, is it the way forward that you still feel behind it?
100%.
Okay, and you Monty, full buy-in.
Unwaveringly so, 100%.
Okay, how far down the road do you think we've still got to go, Monty?
I think we're only about 20% down the road with this guy. I don't think we've got really stopped.
Excellent. Okay, very good. Okay, so in contrast to that, then, Hector, like we had a few chats over the last few days after the other night, and we were down. We were negative/positive. We could see positive signs. Then we watched Rangers 1, Liverpool 7 last night. And that is this Neanderthal football. It's ridiculous. Get the ball to the full-back and tell him to hit it 50-yard diagonal. It's Gary Caldwell football. Remember they days?
My father-in-law, God bless him, he's a Rangers supporter. Hasn't got games for years, and he popped in dinner time today. He's gone, as you say, punt. All we do is punt it, hit it long, try and win the second. That's all we do. We don't play football. And he's probably saying what a lot of their fans think. A result can mask performance so far, but it's abysmal football to watch, isn't it? It really is desperately horrible. Get football stopped, how they play. It's that bad.
Anti-football. Remember Messi called it anti-football when they played Watanaccio against them.
Yep. Yeah. So there's also a side of it as well. I think I mentioned it in the WhatsApp, and I wasn't half joking either. Even when we parked the bus, we looked like we had some form of counter-attacking intent. Even that game of Barcelona, like Lennon's greatest hour and a half, and Tony Watt scored those 2 goals. Every time, when we at least got our shit together and we tried, we at least were trying something that we were just simply incapable of executing against such a superior team. But it worked. And outside of that, I don't recall. Lenny was probably the most pragmatic. If you look at O'Neill, Lennon, Rodgers, Dylan never parked a bus. You know what I mean? When you look at those sort of last 10, 12 years, we always had some form of attacking intent. We had a pattern, or it's something that we try to do. But that 50-yard fucking hoof diagonal, it feels agricultural. And it's not to be, Van Bronckhorst comes across as a decent guy. He's actually a likeable character. But the style of football is fucking horrific. And actually, I watched a lot of their games last season, and they had a really functional, effective system. And that's what got them to where they got to, but ultimately it wasn't good enough to tackle us. So I would hate to watch that football, and I don't mean that just flippantly because it's them. I would rather we died with our boots on. And that's why, if we go out and get horsed, if Shakhtar turn us over on a couple of sucker punches, but we're still trying and we're still creating chances, it's far more fucking appealing to watch than taking 7 on the fucking chin because you can't get out of your own half. So, no, I'm bought into the Ange school, but with that, I'd hate to be watching what's going on across the city.
Okay, well, is that for that was Ralph had turned up with the dogs barking there? Right, so let's get two quick pieces to cover. The one big story this week, of course, Monty, has been those rapscallion Irish ladies singing in the Hampden dressing rooms. How very dare they?
I believe somebody on an Irish talk radio show that they have referred to them as brazen bitches.
Oh, lovely.
Which is fucking brilliant. It's opened up the debate again around how out of touch the kind of establishment is with basically young people in Ireland. And every set your clock by it, one that'll get annoyed about somebody singing a rebel song. They're all out there wheeling out their fucking statements. And one unionist guy demanded a period of proof of a period of reflection and education. Like, the fucking irony is not even remotely measurable from these guys. But Can I quote Tadgh Hickey, or do you want to quote Tadgh's comment?
No, you carry on, because you'll be able to allude to exactly who he's speaking.
I'm really looking forward to Tadgh coming on the podcast, because he's a fucking fantastic stand-up comedian and stand-up performer, and well worth going to see. He's also a Cork man, so it always makes for an argument, right? So
Hector's trying to jump in, he's on mute.
Sorry, Hector, you're on mute.
You've got to do it in a Cork accent.
I can't. It's just one of the hardest accents to do. I end up sounding South African.
Give us a Cork accent. Go on.
But Cork men are always good for an argument. The rebel county, as we call them over here, and I quote, this is Tadgh's own words, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying it. This country, i.e. Ireland, has a long record of not protecting its women and treating them like naughty children that need to be punished. So we shouldn't be surprised by events of the last 48 hours. Also, someday, the south of Ireland will realise the hypocrisy of glorifying the old IRA and vilifying the naughty IRA. Until that day comes, you're going to have many more pearl-clutching events like this one. And that's a fucking beautiful summary of our reality. What I think is hilarious is that it happened in Hampden Park, and that Strathclyde, fucking finest, they're now investigating it, and UEFA are supposedly investigating it, but the beauty and the fucking wonderful tapestry and paradox, the Wolf Tones are number 1 in Ireland. Celtic Symphony's number 1.
Yeah.
It's number 2 in the UK download charts. There'll probably be a campaign to get it to the Christmas number 1. It's fucking brilliant. And as an old fart who used to think, we don't need to sing those at Celtic Park, I couldn't be any more behind it. And I love the fact that we sing those songs at Celtic Park, and I fucking can't belt enough of them out of me. Is
there any truth in the rumour that the 2 of the Wolf Tones' granddaughters play for the Ireland World Cup squad? That's the last I was hearing.
But what I actually heard was that one of their grandfathers was in the stand and took that shot with the airsoft rifle and hit the St. Johnson cap. So he's a fucking sniper.
Desi, just on Strathclyde police investigating. Are the rumours true that they were also investigating half the Scotland squad for joining in as well with the Irish team?
Exactly, it's unbelievable. But again, as I asked you earlier on, Monty, why can't the girls sing nice songs like Bewitched Greatest Hits, or adapting modern classics like Yes Sir, I Can Kneecap? I mean, like, that would be nice.
I was trying to think of a few, just then kind of sunning with the arse earlier on the day, and there's so many variations. But the beauty is that they had a playlist, fucking Spotify playlist. There's clips of them singing Taylor Swift songs. There's clips of them singing random, just fucking girls in Euphoria. But they pick up on a line, and the beauty also that's played out is that people have actually posted the lyrics that he's saying pearl clutching, knicker wetting people. You're going, actually, if you read the lyrics, it's a guy recalling his travels and what he saw. There's graffiti on the wall and it says, we're magic, we're magic. And they get offended by those fucking beautiful 3 words, up the rah. And I think there's a cracking article, I think I should send it on the WhatsApp, a lady called Una Mullally, writing for the Irish Times. And the Irish Times is no friend of republicanism or even modern thinking. It's the first sane bit of discourse I've read about it. And what she's basically saying is, you need to get into touch with modern, young Irish people's confidence and intelligence. And the fact that it was an English guy fucking mansplaining history lessons to a young Irish lady who kind of, she shouldered it, she got it out of the way cleverly, hasn't been lost on anybody either. So it's going to have a counter effect. And
you mentioned Taylor Swift there. Was it the Republican version of the tune that Taylor sung, or was it the American version?
I'm not sure. I think they might have done both. Just for the sake.
A Democrat. I really did.
But yes, so I'd love to hear a couple of suggestions for their playlist. For there's a group, I don't know if you heard of a group called Kneecap Cool. Have you? Seriously, it's a couple of young fellas who rap in Irish.
Oh, that's the Belfast guys, no?
Belfast guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And the Irish word for women is mra. And they put up a brilliant thing yesterday just around it. It says they've been approached to do the official song for the Irish women's team for the World Cup when they go to Australia. And they're thinking that the chorus should probably be something along the lines of ooh, up the mara. So it's absolutely fucking brilliant. But yeah, a storm in a teacup, but another nonsense.
Any old squirrel will do. Any old squirrel will do. Right, so finally, I just want to wrap up with a wee tribute and a wee round of applause between us for one of our great Celts, Mikael Lustig.
Oh,
He's announced his retirement. What a wonderful Celt that man was. He used to play right in front of me, leading the line. What a guy. I mean,
he used to wave at you most weeks, didn't he?
What a beautiful human being. For one guy to have got, especially Monty, for one guy to have got Celtic. I mean, he turns up to Rosenborg and this got us right away. I mean, he just loved our club, and I think we just loved him back. What a guy.
Yeah.
The dashing Tash.
Remember the putting on the policeman's hat and all that. I mean, it just ran riot. And
The
then,
fifth goal at Ibrox.
Again, Joey Barton, remember he had the beach ball on his head.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just had a laugh.
That was the one.
I
There's
thought
one
it was
Morelos.
the Johnson goal, the Bona. But he actually plays a 1, 2, 3 times with Dembele for that goal. Unbelievable for a right back.
So I was just laughing there. There's one when I think it was the game when Morelos or Kent or both get red carded or whatever, something happened towards the end of the game at Celtic Park. And they're all arguing. And he's always in there, right? It's a brilliant photo. Yeah, he's got a big smile on his face and they're all biting, right? There's a group of them all biting and he's got a big smile on his face. I just love that, how he could wind them up so easily. He was really good at it.
No, Mikael, if you're listening, I know you subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening, we love you, mate. Have a great retirement. Right, so it's just left for me to say thanks as always to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast, please let us know. Please tell your friends. If not, please get in touch at etims.contact@gmail.com. Please look out for Ralph's diary at etims.net on a daily basis. You can follow us on Twitter at etimsnet. That'll be Hector and I, and we'll get Vernon. I can never ever say it correctly. Who's also there, so you'll see him. Yeah, I don't think you'll hear from us until after the Madrid game. Are we all going to Madrid, guys?
I'm going, yeah.
Yeah, so we're all going. So if we all make it back safely, we can recall our stories from the joys of Madrid. So
we could do a live podcast from Madrid, couldn't we?
We could try it if you really think we're going to be in any state to do a live podcast.
Do you think about a laugh?
We could try it, but I think the logistics of us managing to get that together, that could be quite funny. But we'll see. You never know. Hopefully we'll be enjoying ourselves in Madrid anyway.
Yeah.
And we'll let everyone know how it goes, either when we're there or when we get back. The last time Hector and I went to Spain together, we got a world exclusive news on Dick Advocat joining Rangers, so God only knows what will happen this time. Alright, so it's just left for me to say thank you to our chief scout overseas, Monty Burns. Thank you, Monty.
Thanks, Desi. Thanks, lads. Enjoyed that.
Yeah, and to our man in the suburbs, Hector Bandido. Thanks, Hector.
Cheers, guys.
Okay, folks, thanks very much for listening. My name is Desi Mond. Good night.
Up the round.